Hey, what's going on, everybody? Chris Meaney here of FTN. Game 6 in Edmonton. Panthers and Oilers happening on Friday. I wanted to get ahead of it because I'm already seeing a lot of line movement. Immediately put in my picks in the Discord and then the NHL bet tracker over at ftnfantasy.com pretty much immediately after Game 5. I thought we had a pretty good Game 5. A lot of the props are pretty much the same. I still see the same edges. There's a couple different players I wanted to bring up with you guys as well. But I wanted to chat to you guys as I've been doing here throughout the Stanley Cup Final. So let's tee up Game 6, 8 Eastern, Friday in Edmonton. The Oilers looking to become the first team since the 1942 Toronto Maple Leafs and just the second team ever to win the Stanley Cup after losing the first 3 games. McDavid, what else can you say about this guy? I am just kicking myself. I believe we talked about it before the finals started. There was 2 NHL record-breaking props, I believe, at BetMGM and DraftKings. We do have Evan Bouchard for the most points by defenseman. He still has a ways to go. He's 6 back of breaking the record. Paul Coffey, he's got Bouchard has 32 points. Coffey had 37 and 84-85. And we all know what McDavid is doing right now. I mean, that was 20-1. Hopefully we can get that one, but there was like a 35-1 out there for McDavid to pass Wayne Gretzky. And before Game 5, I think we chatted about on the show here, but certainly with the subs, he was 7-1. McDavid to win the Conn Smythe. He's the odds-on favorite now. Plus 130 was the best number I saw at Bet365 immediately after Game 5, after his second 4-point performance and a Stanley Cup record, like Stanley Cup Final record, to have 4 points in 2 games back to back. My goodness, what a freak! What else can you say? This guy's awesome, and he is deserving of the Conn Smythe, in my opinion. Even if the Edmonton Oilers lose, I think the only way that it wouldn't be McDavid is if Bobrovsky had a shutout in Game 6. Because that would be huge to have one on the road in his second of the final. Or if Barkov really did have some sort of 4-point night of his own, where it was, I don't want to say high scoring because McDavid would just probably rack up more points. But if it was maybe like a 4-1, 4-2 Panthers win, McDavid's held off the score sheet, Barkov has like a 4-point game. Otherwise, I think this is happening, right? We've seen it happen, I think, 4 times. Mostly goalies. The last was J.S. Giguère, his Ducks, right? And you could have made a case for Martin Brodeur that year. And Ron Hextall did it as well. Glenn Hall, there's a couple others, but mostly goalies. I saw there was one goalie back in the day. His team got swept. I forget the name. Killing me. I should come here prepared. It was a 4-game sweep, and he still got Conn Smythe. But what McDavid is doing is just absolutely ridiculous here. So he's up to 42 points, 5 points back of matching Wayne Gretzky's single playoff point record of 47 set in 1984-85. His point prop is 1.5. I'm done chasing his shots. Like maybe I think the process remains the same in my opinion, and I think it's fair. I'm still on the Panthers, and Oilers fans are probably like, good, be on the Panthers again, because I was on the Panthers in the last game to get it done. And I do feel like they'll go into Edmonton and win. I hope not. I hope I see a 7th. Game 5 was awesome, and I hope we see a couple more of those games. But I feel like I'm done chasing his shots. If they're down in the game, maybe he's a little bit more aggressive. We know the ice time is going to be there, but it's the point prop, right? Minus 145. There's some juice here, but back-to-back games with 4, and he's had at least 2 points in 3 straight at just the level that he's on right now, mixed in with the 5.5 goal total and what we've seen, right? I told you guys at the start of the series, I thought this would be an over series. It wasn't for the first 3 games. Game 3 was stuck on 5, but the last 3 games, we've seen at least 7 goals. We've seen the 7 goals in Game 4. We saw the 7 goals in Game 3. I'm all over the place here. The 9 goals in Game 4, and then we had 7 in the last game. It's been close to that. I know there's at least 7 in 3 straight. So that's the trend, and I'm following it. And you could kind of feel the series turning. I felt the series turning watching the last game, although I'm going to give credit to the Florida Panthers and the way that they played from the second period on. But you could kind of feel it turn, couldn't you? McDavid taking over, Bobrovsky looking very shaky, very, very shaky now for 7-8 periods in a row. And Skinner looking really good, especially in the third period of games. He's looked fantastic. I know I've been hard on him. He has been really, really good for Edmonton. And then the special teams, right? The special teams, Edmonton's power play, it seems like they figured out the Florida Panthers penalty kill. McDavid talked about that. It only takes a couple games to kind of figure out what the team is doing against them, and then it's almost unstoppable. And then the PK has been great throughout the entire playoffs. What is it, 47 of 48 or something like that? And then Florida's power play has been atrocious going back to the series against the Rangers. There was one switch that Paul Maurice made, and we'll get to it in a little bit, but I will give Florida some credit here because in the third period, the shot attempts were 14-2 at 5-5, 42-9. 42-9, the shot attempts in the final two periods of that game for the Panthers at 5-5, 20-7 the shots. Overall, 9-3 the high danger chances, 24-10 the scoring chances. That's just 5-5 numbers. 54-21 were the shot attempts for the Florida Panthers at 5-5 in that game. But again, the special teams, right? Florida, they started off strong. I thought they looked good in game 5. Edmonton took a penalty, and Florida's on the power play, and then they give up another shorty, right? Connor Brown, a beauty. We've seen that from Janmark and Brown. It's been back-to-back games, and I think maybe 3 games they got a shorty in this series. So the special teams has really been in favor of the Edmonton Oilers, but I don't know how we can't go to McDavid for the point prop here. I told the subs at the 7-1. He's moved from 7-1 to -230 at Bet365 to be the Conn Smythe favorite. That was a bit of a hedge point for us on Florida at 18-1. That is over now. I wish I was more aggressive with that call here on this show in particular, because I just felt like Florida would win and McDavid would need to do a lot to get that Conn Smythe, and then he rattles off a second 4-point game. So I'm kicking myself for that, and my apologies, but I still feel like Florida will win this. Win the cup here, but McDavid is making Panthers fans and us who have the Panthers ticket sweat. So McDavid 2 points, we're in on it, -145, a little bit juicy. I'm best price at DraftKings prop shops, your friend, ftnfantasy.com. Link inside the description of this video. Save you some time and some cash on the over 5.5. And then it's the usual suspects. These guys we were all on in game 5 and they came through for us. Carter Verhaeghe, 3 shots, -154. This number is moved. That's why I want to do this video with you guys on Thursday. The game is tomorrow night. It's going to move. Some of these numbers are going to move. I think we got -150. It's moved just a touch. I'll say that the alternate shots and the milestone stuff over at DraftKings, check there before you make the bet, because there's, for whatever reason, a difference in price. So you see Verhaeghe, and Paul Maurice is trying to figure out, they need to get him going, right? He's on the second line. He's on the first line. They finished off the game with him, Reinhart, and Barkov. In the second line of Rodriguez and Tkachuk, and Bennett was phenomenal. So I don't think that Paul Maurice switches those guys up at all. But Verhaeghe and Reinhart, both of these guys, they hit for us. Reinhart had 7 shot attempts and 7 shots. We both got it late, but we still got it. Verhaeghe had the 6 attempts and the 3 shots. And Verhaeghe is among the leaders in shot attempts. It's just not working out for him. The puck hasn't hit the back of the net. But I like both of those guys. I still think Florida is going to come in here and control the play at 5-5 and put a lot of pucks towards Skinner. I have a hard time feeling confident about Draisaitl shots and McDavid shots and Hyman shots. I would kind of lean to maybe the under on Bouchard or the under on Zach Hyman, but it's those get a couple power plays and then those shots do rack up for you. But the Florida guys is where I want to attack, right? Let's get McDavid points. Let's attack the over. Let's go to Reinhart 3 shots. Let's go to Carter Verhaeghe 3 shots. And let's go to Tarasenko again. This is starting to get a little bit more juiced. -160 at DraftKings. I think the last couple games has been -143, -145, but maybe you want to put it into a parlay with Evan Rodriguez, who's at the same price as well. Both of these guys. Let's start with Tarasenko at 2 shots, 3 shots and 4 attempts in the last game. You look at overall, he's got 19 attempts, which is a team high at 5-5, team high. He's got 13 shots at 5-5. That's a team high. And he's got 16 total shots in the series. And that is also a team high at all strengths. The 19 attempts is just third. Rodriguez is got 20 attempts and it's second behind Tkachuk. And that's 5-5 numbers, of course, because we know that Rodriguez and Tarasenko are on the second unit. So 5-5 numbers are very important for me here, especially with these secondary and third line players. So Rodriguez, 20 attempts, second behind Tkachuk, and Tarasenko, 19 attempts. It's got the team high 13 shots at 5-5 and 16 total. And I just saw for Rodriguez, who both of these guys cleared, and I think Tarasenko was up to 4 and Rodriguez similar. That second line, a lot of grit there on that line with Bennett and Tkachuk. Tkachuk was phenomenal. It was his best game of the series. He spoke up. He said, kind of Mark Messier going to win the Stanley Cup in game 5. Wasn't the case, but it wasn't, for him. lack of trying or effort or production, because he scored a goal. He was just phenomenal in the second period. Body checks, throwing his weight. How about the dive and play to stop that on the empty net? That was so cool. Of course, McDavid gets the puck and puts it home, but that was just the effort there for him. And I just saw something with Rodriguez on that second line, a bit of a spark, a lot of sandpaper on that unit. I like Kachuk. If I didn't want to come in here with everybody, but Kachuk with 3 or 4 shots is something I'm banking on again. But Tarasenko for 2 and Rodriguez there for 2. The final plays are the shot blocks here. So we got Nurse and Ekblad. This came through for us as well. Now, Ekblad is a touch more juice for 2 blocks. So I'm putting them together in a parlay. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Nurse at the end here. But for Nurse and Ekblad, for those listening on iTunes and Spotify, not hanging out on the YouTube page, shame on you. Come on over, subscribe, and smash that like button. Ask any questions you have at Chris Meaney on Twitter and X, and you can always leave a comment in the YouTube section. But putting these guys into a parlay at Bet365, it's plus 110. Nurse has 5 blocks in back-to-back games and at least 2 blocks in 8 of 9. The one game that he didn't, we talked about it in game 5, was the game that he left. He only played 4 minutes. Actually didn't leave. He stayed on the bench the entire game. He just didn't play. He had a block in 4 minutes. This guy's blocking everything, and Florida's putting just a ton of rubber towards the goal. So Nurse for 3 blocks is plus 100. For 4 blocks is plus 265. For 5 blocks is 600. I would put a unit on the 3 blocks. I'd put 0.5 on the 4 blocks at plus 265 and 0.25 on the 5 blocks for plus 600. He may not got 5 blocks again, but again, he's got 10 blocks in his last 2 games and 2 plus in 8 of 9 in the one game. He would have gotten there if he played a little bit more. And then Ekblad has 2 plus blocks in 7 straight games. So putting just a little bit juice, I think it's minus 175 for 2 blocks for Ekblad. So I feel a little bit uneasy about that. So putting these guys together, 2 blocks each plus 110, and then consider the ladder on Mr. Darnell Nurse. And then the point props go back to Bouchard and Hyman. It's plus 100 this time, not plus 120 at home. It's hit in the last couple of games. I like the over. I think we're going to see some offense there. And then Barkov and Reinhart. This one didn't hit, but I still think it's pretty good value. Plus 120. Verhaeghe's up on that top line. If you want to include all 3 of these guys, maybe a single on Verhaeghe and go Barkov and Reinhart. The other thing I would consider is that second line. You're going to get some really good value on Kachuk, Bennett, and Rodriguez. You can get just a single play of Rodriguez plus money for a point and Bennett plus money for a point if you want to include Kachuk into there. And then you got the 3 leg. But I will say that watching the games, and there's one more player I wanted to talk about here, but watching the games, the third line is still sneaky, in my opinion, in DFS. With Lindell and Listerinen and Tarasenko. They are taking advantage of Edmonton's third line. I like some of the adjustments Knobloch has made with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, with Draisaitl, and then a little bit of speed there with Warren Foegele playing with Hyman and McDavid. It's every button he's pushed in these playoffs has been the right one. And as for Paul Maurice, I noticed a couple adjustments for sure with him. I think the sneaky DFS play is Oliver Ekman-Larsson of Florida Panthers. DFS, like I would say McDavid is just absolutely worth paying up for. Is going to put a massive dent in your wallet. You want to be contrarian. You're only going to play one lineup in a larger field. You probably have to fade him. It's if he has another 4-point game, forget about it. You're not going to have success. Nurse for blocks, maybe Ekblad for blocks. He's had a couple scoring chances. Maybe Rodriguez in there or Tarasenko in there to save a little bit of cash. Maybe Warren Foegele is in your play. But Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and I'm not seeing any props on him. I put like 0.10 units, like 0.10 units on basically 0.1 on Oliver Ekman-Larsson for an anytime goal at 14-1. I think he's 60-1 for first goal now. I don't think he's going to score again, but Paul Maurice made the switch. Brandon Montour has been really bad in these playoffs, especially in this round. Is nowhere near the same type of performances that we saw last year in the playoffs from him. Just nowhere near. And even since he's played all of regular season, he never really looked the same. He made that awful cross-ice pass on the blue line on the power play, was picked off from Connor Brown. I think it was his fault too on the Janmark goal as well. It's twice I've said that. But for Oliver Ekman-Larsson, bumped on that first power play, was on the ice for a majority of the final couple minutes of that game. And he had a game high 8 shot attempts at 5-5 and 10 total. Nobody had more shot attempts at 5-5 or altogether than Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Scored the goal on his team leading 4 scoring chances. He had 4 scoring chances in that game. Nobody else had more scoring chances than Oliver Ekman-Larsson on the Florida Panthers side of things. So I don't know. Get him in your DFS lineup. Maybe we'll see tomorrow there's some sort of point prop or a shot on goal prop potentially. And maybe a little bit of a sneaky stab there on him to have a goal because it's pretty valuable to be on that first power play unit there for the Florida Panthers. So that's it. 15 minutes for a few plays, but you guys know I love talking hockey. You guys hanging out with me throughout the season. Really do appreciate it. Good luck on the ice. Quick little recap here. I'll rank them in order of what I like, and it's got to be McDavid for 2 points. The over 5.5 goals, Florida and Edmonton. I like Verhaeghe for 3 shots. I like Sam Reinhart for 3 shots. I like Tarasenko for 2 and Rodriguez for 2. In that order, I pretty much like them all the same. Again, Panthers throwing a lot of pucks towards the goal. I'd rather attack Florida Panthers shot props and maybe some point props on the Edmonton side. So we do have the same game parlay for Bouchard and Hyman for points at plus 100. We have Barkov and Reinhardt for plus 120 there. And then we have the block shot parlay, 2+ each for Nurse and Ekblad. 1 unit on Nurse for 3 blocks at plus 100, 0.5 for 4 blocks at plus 265, 0.25 for 5 blocks at plus 600 because he does have 5 blocks in each of his last 2 games. I hope we get to do this again. I really do. I think the Panthers go in there and win one. I think this is going to be the overtime game. Game 5 was fantastic. Hopefully we get a couple more of these. And I know Panthers fans out there are certainly sweating, and the 18-1. Missed the opportunity to hedge with McDavid, but hopefully you covered your bases. But at the end of the day, I do believe we'll see the Florida Panthers lift the Stanley Cup. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great one. Enjoy the hockey.